What songs from this legendary album does most of the band hate? Which song was barred from being released and had to have the lyrics change? Which song off this album was dedicated to Peter's cat? Hi people and hello my Chili Con Carnage crew, welcome to this episode of Retro Reviews, and it's going to be on Typo Negative's album Bloody Kisses. Well, this review is late, and for that I am sorry, but you know what, the world does owe a debt of gratitude to Typo Negative, because they really were the pioneers of goth girls with tick old bitties.
Oh man, you're pretty.
And look how far we've regressed. The more things change, the more they stay the same, except this doesn't really seem to be the case when it comes to Typo Negative, a very unique and one-of-a-kind band that has been cited as highly influential, yet remains elusive for not being copied by a lot of up-and-coming bands. The quartet out of Brooklyn would be known as the Drab Four, and this is their take on the Beatles naming themselves the Fab Four, and is one of the group's biggest influences, which would be more prominent on this, the band's second record. And yes, Typo Negative fans, this is their second album, because the Origin of Feces is just a re-recording from their first album in a false live setting, and you can't convince me that that is a studio record. When scenes collide, they can cause a ripple effect or a change in the music scene. This is most prominent in the 60s era of music when the counterculture merged with musicians to shift their styles of music very drastically. The same can be said about Typo Negative when they were recording this record, which saw the band's sound shift in favour for a new scene that Peter loved. And of course, that was the goth scene. Now this is not the first time in history that music has been aimed at women in order to score.
Hi, welcome to Learning How to Play Guitar. Well enough to get you laid. Volume 1.
But this seemed much more obvious on this record, so let's talk about Bloody Kisses. There were 3 singles chosen for this album, with Black Number 1, Christian Woman, and Summer Breeze. Now it takes a special band to be able to choose a near 10-minute song as their single and have it actually chart. And of course this would be true if Black Number 1 was left unedited. The original version of this song goes for over 11 minutes in runtime, however it was cut down to a more digestible 4 minutes and 38 seconds for the radio edit. A music video was made to accompany the single, which has the members performing music in a traditional looking hall, with Peter playing a double bass instrument as if it were a normal guitar. The video was shot entirely in black and white, except for Peter Steele's eyes, which were coloured olive green during the close-ups. Perhaps some of the success for this song is owed to the TV show Beavis and Butthead, which depicted the duo giving their iconic commentary while watching this music video.
It's all
Check this out.
the moon is.
One of the more intriguing facts about this song is how Peter wrote this entire song at work while he was in a garbage truck, and I quote, "waiting in line for 3 hours to dump 40 cubic yards of human waste at the Hamilton Avenue Marine Transfer Station, and I wrote this song in my head. I am not kidding you." This is easily one of the most iconic tracks that Typo Negative has ever recorded, and remains to be their second most popular track behind I Don't Wanna Be Me. It's a killer track, with a fantastic groove throughout, and the drumming towards the end is just hypnotizing as the band plays out their instruments. The second single was Christian Woman, a track that was inspired by the true life events of Peter and, well you guessed it, a Christian woman who liked to break the rules a little bit. In fact, she would get him to dress up as a priest and, well, I guess you could just figure out what happens after that.
That's right, sister. Call the Lord and tell him about to have some company.
Peter would state that he had a bit of a priest infection after this encounter. The song itself is a slow and doomy tune that discusses lust in various forms within a Christian woman. The music video also accompanying that has extreme close-ups of Peter's face as he sings the lyrics to the tune, intermixed with the band playing in a red room and 2 lovers in a passionate fling. Again, this song is absolute fire and has the signature baritone vocals of Peter being delivered with such effect that Chino Marino himself would be getting wet listening to this tune.
Can I get a hoya?
I mean, the words Corpus Christi have never sounded so sexy. Of course, with the radio edit, it meant that sections of the song were left out completely, as this tune is separated into 3 sections, with the first part being about the body of Christ and making up the majority of the song that is heard on the radio version. But what is left off is the bridge and second part to Love God, and of course the closing section, Jesus Christ Looks Like Me, which has this almost alien sounding effect on the keyboard sections when compared to the first half of the song, and of course its gospel-like approach. The last single was Summer Breeze, and it was a song that nearly had to be removed from the record due to its lyrics. This song was originally going to be called Summer Girl, and is in fact a cover song, with the original artists being Seals and Croft, and when the band decided to do a version of this song, they would end up changing the lyrics from the original piece. One of the changes was during a chorus, which of course in the original goes as follows.
See the smell waiting in the kitchen, food cooking on the plates for two.
However, in Typo Negative's version, this was changed to the following.
See you smile, lead to the bedroom. Fire burns white for two. I feel your legs are spreading out to take me. Just can't wait to get inside of you.
Naturally, the original songwriters did not approve of these lyrics, and so the band had to re-record the song with the original lines. Of course, the band's version is a much more doomier and gloomier tongue-in-cheek take on the song, and of course is very much to their style. It's a solid tune that would become a bit of a staple for their next couple of records. Typo Negative's version of Summer Breeze would also make an appearance at the beginning of the movie I Know What You Did Last Summer. Which wouldn't be the only 90s horror/thriller movie that would get the Typo Negative treatment, but that's for another episode. I mean, at the end of the day, this whole album has a lot of deep cuts, but easily one of the best hidden tracks on offer is the title track, Bloody Kisses, A Death in the Family. A 10-minute epic that centers around the loss of someone close and dear to you. The lyrics deal with loss, as the protagonist mentions their loss of a loved one that kept their pain inside and ended it all, and how they would join them in the end, as two become one, until the pleas to not go as they taste the bloody kisses. It might surprise you to find out that the inspiration for this song came from the death of Peter's cat, Venus, who he had for 18 years and felt strong pain on her passing, even burying her in his backyard to the behest of another family member, who he would come close to blows with in a fit of passion. Of course, the song's lyrics barely allude to their pet, as Pete has said, who wants to hear a 6-foot guy sing about his cat, so the lyrics instead discuss a partner without going into specifics, and of course have more grounded lyrics. Another one of the deep cuts that is on this record is the track We Hate Everyone, which is really typical for Typo Negative and their style of humour. In case you are unaware of the band, they usually interlace their albums with a very weird and twisted sense of humour, sometimes usually gallows humour, and given their style, it's really no surprise. We Hate Everyone is a track that shows this on perfect display, as it is a more shorter tune that feels akin to their earlier hardcore days with its faster thrash metal-esque tone for the first part of the track, with lyrics that stretch to every single section of political ideologies that you can imagine, and how the band has been labelled all of them. But in the end, they just don't care what you have to say. They hate everyone equally.
Typo Negative for president. They will suck your balls dry. Johnny Kelly has a big penis. Johnny Kelly has a big penis. Johnny Kelly has a big penis.
Take that, social labels. Yeah, this tune is a blast. Lastly is the song Set Me On Fire, which has the band melding 60s era psychedelic piano synth with goth rock in an equally impressive tune. Peter also takes backseat on the vocals for the song, as Kenny performs lead vocals, similar to the song We Hate Everyone. Bonus round here, but what might be interesting to hear is that the song Blood and Fire was loathed by all band members except for Peter, and was nearly cut from the record entirely. Is this the perfect goth metal album? Well, for the era, I would say it's a close second. Those dreary anthemic songs on offer are absolutely incredible to hear still to this day, and are still very unique. Of course, when it comes to being in a depressed mood, Typo Negative managed to capture that despair and hatred in only the way they could. And they are one of those bands that you would wish to hear on repeat if you are in a drab mood yourself. After all, misery loves company, but it's never fun to dance alone. Bloody Kisses received a lot of positive reviews, with publishers such as AllMusic giving it a 4.5 out of 5, Pitchfork with an 8.7 out of 10, and even Hard Rock giving the album a perfect score of 10 out of 10. On the other side, Record Collector gave it a 3 out of 5, and Rolling Stone a 2 out of 5. And on Rate Your Music, it currently sits with a score of 3.7 out of 5 from nearly 7,000 scores. For me, I would say that overall I would give this album a score of 12 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite songs being Christian Woman, Black Number 1, A Death in the Family, Bloody Kisses, and We Hate Everyone. It's not the perfect record and does have moments within that could probably be omitted, which is probably why the re-release of this album is actually shorter than the original. But it wouldn't feel right hearing this record without those audio noise sections. It's not their best work in my opinion, but it was a step in the right direction. This album was a rebirthing for the Drab 4, a chance for new beginnings. Bloody Kisses saw a massive departure from their earlier debut record and their live one, and of course was born out of necessity for the band, if that necessity was to hook up with goth chicks. Nothing against that. In fact, colour me green with envy for them doing so. But it was more of a necessity that bore this album's fruits, in which the scene was ripe for the taking. And the album was, of course, released at the right time, at the right place, like many groundbreaking records before and since. In fact, the album's success is what caused Peter to end up having to quit his day job. And this decision was one that he took rather seriously, because he didn't feel like he had what it took to become a famous band. The album and the success it brought with it allowed the band to, of course, become a full-fledged group, and it's owed to that departure from their earlier records. Where the first album has its fan base with a more hardcore scene, as of course it was more similar in vein to Peter's earlier band Carnivore, Bloody Kisses is a departure of that style, and it brought with it a slew of new fans and an air of change that helped shift an entire scene in the future. And this can be boiled down to two basic elements in the goth metal scene: the tighter, catchy pop hooks with its more melodic songwriting, which of course took its cues from bands like the Beatles, and of course this coupled with a rather special sound from Josh Silver's keyboard sections that would complement their style. And while I've talked a lot about the keyboards, I have to of course mention that Peter is a very talented musician on the bass, and really brings his instrument to the forefront of their songs to play both in rhythm and alongside the guitars. Typo Negative would be an influence on future acts such as of course Lacuna Coil or Woods of Ypres. This new style of music would also become a staple for the band's sound for many more records to come, but perfectly demonstrated on their next effort, October Rust, which lent heavily into a more brooding synth-heavy tone. Is this a perfect goth metal album? I don't know. Is it the album you need to hear? Yes. Despite the massive influence that Typo Negative would wield over the following years within the metal community, it is perhaps most surprising that really no bands have emerged and have copied or emulated their style outside of a very select handful. I mean, this really is a one-of-a-kind band that, outside of future projects from band members, didn't really have an impact on, except for maybe one band, which is Unto Others. You see, Typo Negative really found themselves on this record, and of course if you haven't heard of Unto Others before, then I would highly recommend them, especially if you're a fan of Typo Negative. There is perhaps a myriad of reasons as to why the band was never really copied as much as they were, and maybe this is mostly due to the scene dying, but at the end of the day, I feel like they were an influence that has been widely accepted. I mean, if we have a legion of bands that are devoted to that Sabbath-esque sound, particularly in that stoner and metal fields, then it's a curious question that remains unanswered as to why this underdog of a group of musicians from Brooklyn wouldn't persevere into this day and age. But alas, maybe their full effect has yet to be seen. Thank you for checking out this episode of Retro Reviews.
This is Typo Negative, Brooklyn, New York. Yo, Brooklyn! And we'd like to wish you a happy Halloween. Enjoy Black Number 1 because we don't. Cut!
If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.